It's Wednesday, September 23rd, and the time for your Barbados Today Morning News Update. Government has raised over $1 million in revenue from the Barbados Welcome Stamp and is preparing for another wave of applicants. That disclosure from Tourism Minister Senator Lisa Cummins, who said companies, student groups and other organizations have been taking up the offer en masse. During a webinar hosted by the Caribbean Tourism Organization yesterday, the minister explained that the offer is even more attractive as some countries grapple with their second or third waves of the coronavirus.
We have been seeing active engagement on our social media sites in excess of 8 million hits already on our various sites. And we've already hit the 1 million mark in terms of those persons who are actually now beginning to have the payments processed into Barbados. So that will translate into individuals and companies and so on. So we're climbing, and we're now putting the measures in place to roll out the second wave of the Welcome Stamp initiative.
And there's something I saw a report recently. It doesn't come up in this work thing, but students who university students,
yes,
these pupils also seem to be wanting to come here as well.
Yes, that's correct.
How would you have on that?
Absolutely. So we're seeing many subgroups, for example, and I mentioned, just so for clarity, we're not talking about 1 million persons, we're talking about the million persons, the million in terms of quantification of the payment that has been received so far, not the individual.
Minister Cummins speaking there with the CTU's communications specialist John Rose. The Barbados Welcome Stamp is open to applicants worldwide.
We're seeing students. Companies have been making contact with us, in particular those companies that are off, particularly major extraction-based companies who may have families who their employees are working remotely and their families are with them, and they're not able to go home because the countries that they come from are now in either their second or in some instances their third wave. What do? They've been in the country where they're working and based for a really long time, which is longer than normal for many of them because they're used to coming and going frequently, and they want to give people a mental health break. And they're thinking, okay, would you be willing to let our families come to Barbados and stay there while their relative, their primary caregiver, is working remotely in another jurisdiction? And we're saying, absolutely, you can come and we'll facilitate that. So we're seeing students, we're seeing the digital nomads, we're seeing the companies. We're also seeing a lot of techies expressing interest in also working from here as well.
Senior economist Dr. Justin Ram is calling for the establishment of a small business resilience unit trust fund that would allow micro, small and medium enterprises to have access to innovative financing. He made the appeal as he delivered the keynote address during the Small Business Association's State of the Sector virtual conference under the theme, The Era of Digital Disruption, Thinking Beyond the Box. The economic advisor stressed that in order for the sector to become more sustainable and build resilience, there is a need for innovative financing.
I would like to say to the government that this is the way of the future. This is the way of decentralized finance. And I think that there's a role for us to play. And let me just say what I think this means. I think that the Small Business Association, we could set up a resilience trust fund. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot on you, Senator, but I'm just putting some ideas. Could we set up a resilience trust fund whereby members can now invest in this trust fund, and that trust fund then goes about investing in initiatives that actually build resilience across Barbados and maybe even across the region? What would this look like? Well, we all know about unit trusts, and it's probably similar, whereby we can have our members buying units and holding those units. We can have a trustee managing that, and all of that money going into this Caribbean Resilience Unit Trust Fund or Small Business Resilience Unit Trust Fund. There's a management company that can manage this, and then we have fund managers who decide where they are going to invest based on what we say.
Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Kerry Simmons, says a new approach is on the way for how some segments of the micro, small and medium enterprises sector in Barbados operate, and he has thrown out a challenge to the Small Business Association to consider leading a biannual review of the sector in order to ensure more up-to-date information to help in the decision-making process. He made the comments on Tuesday as he addressed the SBA's State of the Sector Conference, the poster event for Small Business Week 2020.
That there is an indisputable importance of the sector, and it is desirable and necessary to have a state of the sector assessment taking place perhaps at least once every 6 months, so that we can set clear goals, objectives, and take stock of the progress we are making in a very focused and direct manner. The Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship wants to take fresh guard with this sector. We see that there is tremendous potential in the sector. We understand the pain and suffering in the country, and we hope that that immediate concern, that natural Barbadian concern about our fellow man, the pain and suffering in the country, must be the engine and the fuel that galvanizes us now to do the things to transform this economy in a way that we never did before, even though we all knew that it had to be done, but we contented ourselves to kick the can down the road. We did so because we thought there was a tourism industry that would always be there to save us. It has been brought to its knees, and there will be a time to pass before it can come back to what it was. But in the interim period, the fate of the future, our future, is in our hands collectively.
Businessman Ryan Walters throws his hat in the ring for the post of Vice President when the Democratic Labour Party holds its 65th annual conference this weekend. Walters, who hopes to represent the St. Michael Northwest constituency in the 2023 general election, announced his intention to be the number 2 in the party's hierarchy last night. When contacted, he told Barbados Today that he was ready to put in the work in order to help chart a way forward for the political institution.
As Vice President, I am happy to learn and develop in the ranks as I contribute and serve. The party needs a combination of youth and experience. I am offering my commitment as I have shown in the past, and will also bring new perspectives, new ideas, and a fresh way of executing our initiatives and engaging with the electorate. Rebuilding the party has a few priorities. While we work administratively to re-energize our members, rebuild and revive the organs of the party, we have to be very focused and strategic in engaging the public. Engagement will come when we speak on issues that have national appeal, and when we officially announce candidates who are able to go into constituencies and interact and build relationships on the ground. We have to do all 3 activities simultaneously. And while each activity will be at different stages, once we continue to progress and improve in each area, we will be on the right track.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now, Guyana's Home Affairs Minister defends the actions of prison officers at the Lusignan prison over the weekend. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana tells us more.
Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben this morning defended the use of lethal force at the Lusignan prison by prison guards, telling the National Assembly that the decision was taken to prevent a jailbreak. 2 prisoners were shot dead by prison guards on Saturday during an unrest in the cramped prison facility. The prison service has said the prisoners were trying to break down the main gate when they were shot. Responding to questions posed by the opposition in Parliament today, Minister Ben said the prisoners were acting unruly during their protest. He said guards were attacked and had no other alternative but to open fire on the prisoners who were charging the gate.
The loss of life is in any event regrettable and sad. But I would have to say that my understanding was that the final perimeter of the prison was under attack and was being besieged along with the prison warders. And they took the measures necessary to make sure that we don't have a resumption of problems we've had in the past in relation to the outbreaks of prison.
The prisoners started their protests over concerns about the spread of coronavirus inside the prison. However, the minister says some prisoners also raised concerns about the long wait for their cases to be called before the courts, with many complaining that they have been on remand for months.
And finally, Republicans secured the numbers needed to ensure that President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee will face a confirmation vote in the Senate. The party received the 51 backers needed to move forward with voting on Trump's candidate to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died on Friday.
Republican Senator Mitt Romney on Tuesday said the Senate should vote on a replacement for liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all but paving the way for President Trump to name his third justice to the Supreme Court, likely cementing a conservative majority for decades to come. Romney has been one of the few Republicans in Congress willing to criticize Trump, and even voted to remove Trump from office in the February impeachment trial.
The president is guilty of an appalling abuse of public trust.
But he dismissed Democratic arguments that the Senate should wait until after voters decide whether to re-elect Trump or choose his Democratic challenger Joe Biden in the November 3rd presidential election.
I came down on the side of the Constitution and precedent as I've studied it, and make the decision on that basis.
But Democrats are crying foul, accusing Republican lawmakers of hypocrisy, pointing out that Republicans refused to even consider Democratic President Barack Obama's nominee to fill a vacant Supreme Court seat in 2016 because it was an election year. Romney said that was not a concern for him this time, adding that in 2016 Washington was split between a Democratic president and a Republican Senate, while this year Republicans control both.
My liberal friends have, over many decades, gotten very used to the idea of having a liberal court, and that's not written in the stars.
Romney, who twice ran for president unsuccessfully, was among Trump's harshest critics leading up to the 2016 election.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.